It was better when it was not cool to be political.
Yeah.
Because like maybe then it was cool to have like an opinion on sports or something like that.
Yeah.
And like
You are fighting a tech algorithm in many respects that you can't beat.
now like being political is a statement piece.
Like this is like a conspiracy theory thing, but there are agendas at play, man. The minute there's money, there's agenda. And like if you wisen up to that, you can form a better formed, rounded opinion. But there's this idea that if a human being changes their opinion, that is somehow a demerit to their character.
Yeah, like they've taken the L.
Misinformation in many aspects because of technology, I truly think it has like a first mover advantage, right? You don't need to be right, you need to be first. Lenin would be like smiling in his grave that this is the kind of scheme you're rolling out, right? Free food of the level you cannot imagine. You know, I will come to left of center, but I think something that you said really rings true to me, and that's like, where did this whole nomenclature for us start, right? So, two kids that grew up in Mumbai, right, went to schools that were English medium schools.
British, I went to a British school.
Either Anglo or Catholic schools. And that's the education we received, and it was top-notch education for all that it was. But something I've only thought about later is that we were still kind of politically delinked for the most part, right? In school, you're not really thinking about it much. We passed 11th and 12th, some hot button issues here and there, but even then, because of the exposure that we've had,
we were like delinked. I'd say like we used to have model United Nations, but never like model Lok Sabha.
Correct, never
model
like
Lok
it
Sabha,
was
never
right?
actually.
It was always...
We knew how the UN ran, and we used to do H1 and
so you'd know more
and
about who maybe someone is in the House of Representatives in the US, but you will not know who your own MLA is in your constituency, right? So that was right. So that's like something which that's a whole other issue in itself on how politically aware is the this section of Indian society, right? Because they definitely have a voice, right? And they have an opinion, and they have the money to push their opinion. But more often than not, they maybe don't have a full understanding of the reality on the grassroots. And what I was coming to is that as a result, throughout schooling, a lot of these kids, this section of society, all things considered, had a Western upbringing. Completely. The music we listen to, right? If I ask you what are the favorite songs you listen to, it's like, Eric Clapton, the Eagles.
Hard Day's Night, the Beatles.
Yeah, right? So it's and this is not that this is not Indian, by the way, right? Like they're very much, those cultures have mixed over the years, and it's not to say that it's not Indian, but we grew up exposed to that content, and in many senses that shaped our opinion. I would say at least, right?
100%.
Would you feel like that was the case for you?
I think it was markedly anti-Indian almost to some extent.
Yeah.
It was we never spoke Hindi in our schools. We were taught by like 12th standard that by the age of 12 we were taught about universities abroad. We were not talking, and we don't want to like say those universities are great schools. We've been there.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's my thing is never to do with the quality of the education. I think the quality of the education was fantastic, but how it kind of molds your thinking.
So what did you know about politics at age 15?
At age 15.
And what was even happening in Indian politics then? Because I didn't give a shit.
At age 15, man, like that
happening?
Would be just when we were still in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th.
So like who was the Prime Minister?
We were not even thinking about politics then,
Do you
right?
know,
like, I remember the Manmohan Singh years very well. So then I was following politics enough that I knew what was happening electorally that's when I was kind of fully checked in, right? And what was happening, even the good things that they were doing. Then you realize when all the scams started happening, when we were in school, Anna Hazare and his movement was taking place at that time.
So at that time, was there all this like left-right stuff? Did we just not read the newspapers? Like,
I think a lot of kids were not really reading it enough. I think, and at that age as well, you're not, especially if you're in school, you're thinking about, university, this, that. The last thing you're thinking about is like local politics, which I think is a problem.
It's a problem.
It's a problem, right? You want to have the polity more aware of what's going on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. It's like what they say, like I heard Abhijit Iyer Mitra say this on a podcast. He was like, elite Indians have this unfortunate condition where minds are in London, New York, and Paris, but their bodies are just trapped in India.
Correct. Dude,
you know, and it's like a disease. You know, like they don't know how to deal with this.
One of the best posts I see every year is like I forget this guy on Twitter or Instagram. He puts it out. And he's like Happy Thanksgiving to everyone in South Mumbai and South Delhi. You know, and like ask these kids. They'll know when Thanksgiving is, but they will probably not know the date of Mahashivratri. I guarantee you. Right? What is the chances you'll know Ram Navami date, Mahashivratri date, you'll know Thanksgiving, you'll know 4th of July, you know, you'll know these things that you know because you were just exposed to that culture. And again, not to knock someone for this, but I just think that if you want to have a solid, firm opinion on matters here, India is a different beast, and I'm learning about it every day, and I'm not even in the political space, but it's something I'm really passionate about. So spending time reading about it, trying to understand the different stakeholders from your grassroots village panchayat up to the top, right? How does that interplay work out? What are the different ideologies? What are the different motivating factors? It's another world, right? And I think what happens when you go and you study, say, in the US, right? And this is very much to America's credit. I would always tell this to my friend. Okay. I have a wonderful, very, very close friend from the US, and we always talk about this. America just kills it at soft power. They are like, till date, right? The very fact that you and I grew up with the cultural affinities that we had was because of the sheer power. You watch Hollywood, you consume.
You idolize them.
You idolize them, and you often at the expense of your own culture. Right? And that takes, I think, a lot of courage to even admit that, but that's the truth, right? And that culture is so strong and overpowering and insidious at some level that you just start thinking like them. So, and
I think that's what we started thinking when, like, literally almost 20 years ago, you know, like when our opinions were forming about the adult, and now I think it is starting to crumble a bit, but the tendencies are still there.
It's still there.
So I would just say, like, if I had to, like, use the Western framing that I was, say, indoctrinated with and applied here, I would just, like, loosely looking around, say that the Congress is a left-wing party and the BJP is a right-wing party.
Right. And I think that is where things start to get very shaky. Right.
Okay.
So when you go to the US, and again, this is the biggest thing that they've exported because their politics are so sensationalized and internationalized, and at some level rightfully so, because they're a very important country whose decisions affect
the hegemon.
Yeah, they're the hegemon, and their decisions do affect the world. So it's good that you're abreast of what's happening there. But that political continuum, and I try and explain this as much as I can to a lot of my friends that I talk to, is so unfairly applied in India that it's that continuum of left and right, the way it's applied in the US, just does not apply here. Parts maybe do, right?
Okay.
First of all, you're like, okay, what is left, what is right, right? So you can say left economics, left cultural, left social, left or right in any of these buckets, right?
And a combination of those three would sort of put you in left political or right politics.
Correct. So this ideology is very much prevalent there. And we just kind of brought that and just said, okay, let's just apply it here. And I read this fantastic article some time ago, actually, by Shekhar Gupta on The Print. And he actually made a very bold argument. He's like, look, I don't even think it's fair to say that any party in India, realistically, is economically right in India. In fact, if you look at some of the schemes that this government and the last government and the government before that have launched, it's predominantly extremely welfare-based. You're giving out, in fact, some of these schemes, I'm sure would like, Lenin would be like smiling in his grave that this is the kind of scheme you're rolling out, right? Free food of the level you cannot imagine.
And this is from the BJP.
Yeah, this is even from this government. Yeah, this is from the BJP that is doing out, welfare schemes of an epic proportion, right? And that is, whether they're doing it at the level that they want to be doing it or not, that is another question.
They probably want to do more.
They probably want to do more, and their intent is that, look, to the last person, and that's why they rolled out, direct benefit transfer so that the money reaches the last person.
What is that?
So before, what would happen, right? So their idea was that, okay, can we ensure that every last Indian receives the welfare that is owed to them through a government scheme? Corruption runs right to the root. I mean, you know that. And this was one of the biggest, I think, areas where it took off, is that a lot of state disbursed funds, in the lakhs of crores, were essentially being siphoned off and never never being received by the last person, right? It was never going to the last mile. And I think the idea of these schemes was
direct benefit
transfer.
Transfer.
So the DBTs were to essentially, okay, first thing, okay, how do you solve this problem? Okay, first thing, can I ensure everybody gets a bank account? Right?
Okay.
So that's the first thing. How can I make sure that I can give you money directly if you don't have a bank account? Because if I'm doing it in cash, it's anyways not going to be, it's not going to work, right? The minute it's cash, there's going to be intermediaries in the system. So, okay, first, can we fully digitize this? Can I give everybody a bank account?
Is part of Aadhaar related to all of this? Or?
That's how this whole project started, right? So, and that's the whole conversation on what was the jam trinity. Right? And this is actually not a BJP idea, right? And I think that's, again, something that we've gotten so over politicized, right? That even correct attribution of ideas is gone.
Got it.
Right? It's just everyone wants to take credit for an idea because it gives them some political mileage. Because I was fighting is Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile, right? Okay. So mobile was that India, we have, I mean, it was a sadder statistic for many years, but people have more cell phones than even toilets. But we are a fully mobile country, right? Everyone, if not a smartphone, there'll be a mobile. Okay, can we take that ecosystem and leverage it in a way that people that were in the past not receiving what was due to them through a government scheme, can they receive that? Okay. Right? So that was the larger idea.
And this was introduced by the BJP.
It was that's the thing. The idea started long ago. The execution in the end.
Direct.
DBTs was executed. Was direct benefit transfers through this.
But using infrastructure that was built under the Congress regime.
Part by Congress, part by
BJP over the years, but essentially both driving towards a economically left.
Yeah, it's a very, in fact, noble welfare idea.
Noble welfare
idea. Not only do I want to give out money, I want to do it in a way where the last citizen in this country can receive it. Right? So, to me, it would be completely erroneous to call
fair enough.
Right wing. So, economically.
But then, if you take, look, I don't think anyone who is tweeting about the BJP, they are basically talking about being culturally left, or I guess.
Correct. Culturally left, socially left. And I think even there, I'm hesitant to fully apply that political continuum that the US has here.
Okay.
Because the reason why is because the right comes with a very loaded set of cultural ideas that are again American in a sense. So, okay, let's take something that's easier to mind. Say something like abortion.
Okay.
Right? So, that is an ongoing fight in the US still, right? In states, in fact, it's regressing.
Yes.
It's shocking, right? So, in the US...
And India has always been pretty steady.
You have a Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act in India, which has been even recently updated by the BJP, which would be considered so bold. Right?
Very liberal.
Yeah, I'll have to, again, just check the exact date, but if I'm not mistaken, it's even more than 20 weeks, right? Yeah. And that's, again, so, okay, are you socially left? Are you socially right? Right? That's, by the US standpoint, that would be like super socially left.
Socially.
Yeah, like very, very socially left. And I think what it fundamentally comes down to for me, Rohan, is that a lot of people don't want to do the necessary due diligence into how a political opinion would be developed in the Indian context.
Okay.
Right? I'll say that in another way. Because of how politicized the world became in the post-Trump era, we had essentially this idea of silence is violence. You've heard a lot of people say, dude, silence is violence. If you don't speak out, you're being violent, you're complicit. Right? And I have my problems with that. I see the noble idea behind that, right? If there's suffering and injustice happening, if you don't speak out, you're complicit. But I do think that idea is very, what it has done in this, especially social media generation, is it's pushed kids, it's pushed elite Indians in many respects, to adopt an opinion with minimal due diligence, minimal fact checking, and minimal and without an attempt to understand whether this opinion that you've adopted applies to this historical context and current context. It is an arbitrary application of an idea. So the first thing that essentially gets sacrificed at the altar of like silence is violence plus extreme political correctness is logic, reason, and due diligence of an idea.
Yeah, I mean, like Black Lives Matter blackout post.
Right. So you had kids in India who have never read about that, and that's like such an important movement in many respects in the US. And you had kids in India who again don't really even understand what
it's like offensive. Like it's like 3 photos of you partying at a club, selfies in a bathroom, then a Black Lives Matter, then some brunch you're at.
Yeah, I mean,
it must be performative. I mean, like, is it too cynical to say that's performative?
No, not at all. I think that's entirely performative. You're doing it either you're doing it as a kind of pat to yourself, like, hey, you've done good today. You've been a part of the political story. But even then, do some good in
the, like, is there nothing going wrong in our own country that's where your attention would be? And I feel like if elite India is doing this, is that what the aspiration for the rest of India is? Just to, like, get money and have your head in your head in the clouds, living in America, more concerned with that. Like, grassroots politics won't affect you because, you're never going to have to deal with, like, the cost of onions going up.
Yeah, exactly. How many of the kids that you know have ever thought, like, oh my God, inflation is getting really bad?
I don't even know what an onion costs, like, roughly.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? It's like you're actually delinked from the, or you're isolated from the political ramifications, but you want to be politically active, but you're not willing to do the necessary due diligence to be politically active.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really vicious cycle.
It was better when it was not cool to be political. Because like maybe then it was cool to have like an opinion on sports or something like that, and like just be obsessed with Chelsea and Arsenal and
better days. Liverpool fan myself.
Like maybe, but now like being political is a statement piece. Like,
exactly.
So it was better when people didn't care about politics, because now that people do care about politics without still wanting to do the work it requires to form a political opinion.
There I would maybe even challenge you a bit. I do think it's good that people get more politically sensitized. I had a very interesting conversation with my friend on this. What I think our generation brings, which past generations didn't, is we're more empathetic in general. And I think like, in the past, by the time the news would reach that something bad is happening in another country, probably the issue's already closed, right? News didn't travel as fast. Now it travels fast and you have kids that are more sensitized.
Like the tsunami.
Yeah. It'll take just time for information to receive you. So you will not, it will not be that, how do I say, like it's not like a wildfire that's spreading of news, right? Which nowadays happens like at the drop of a hat. Like things go viral, you want to catch on to it. And I actually think, Rohan, that's where I would say, for me, the problem is not people trying to get into politics, try to understand politics. The point is that even if you want to do the necessary due diligence on the idea, you are fighting a tech algorithm in many respects that you can't beat, right? So what happens is that you're like, essentially, let's say essentially we're all in echo chambers, right? So if you go to my Twitter feed or someone else's Twitter feed, it'll show them only the kind of things that they want to see. And when I was working in tech, this idea of like search engine optimization, right? So you want to get the right keywords in. So if someone goes to search, your website is the top hit on Google, for example. And that gives you clicks, it gives you views, it gives you engagement, and that's how you make money, right? What's happened? Take this right-wing Indian government example, right? That is a very catchy keyword. And I don't think from a certain magazines in the last 10 years, you will see an article that doesn't start with that. And at some level, maybe some writer truly believes that, in which case I'd like to challenge them on why they believe it's right. But two, I promise you it is just because that keyword has caught on. You need to make sure your article has it. So if someone Googles, okay, India politics, boom, right-wing nationalist government, right-wing nationalist government, right-wing nationalist government. But the danger of that is that repetition exists for a reason. And then that starts getting set into people's head. And then it's really hard for them to break that idea that, it's hard for them to break any idea if it's continuously drilled in every article you read. But what I find funniest, which I will tell you, someone pointed this out. If it's something really bad about India, something bad that happened, first line, it'll be right-wing government does this. But say it's something really good, like GDP to outperform, this, that. It'll be like, India stands out as a leading South Asian economy to do this. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's not, I don't want to be like like this is like a conspiracy theory thing, but there are agendas at play, man. The minute there's money, there's agenda. And like if you wisen up to that, you can form a better formed, rounded opinion. That's what I think.
I just think that when you say it's good that people are being political, I don't think they're being political. Like, you know, I just don't, like, I don't think they're trying to be political and they're getting it wrong. You know, like that's what you're saying, like they're trying to be political, that's a good thing and they're getting it wrong. I saw a page on Instagram, I sent this to you. It was an Instagram page called Skateboarders for Palestine.
Yeah.
Okay, during the whole Israel-Palestine. And it was like a legitimate, like, left-wing take done through the lens of the skateboarding community being reposted by skateboarders here in India. How... I can certainly imagine this like awful war has affected your ability to skateboard. You know, in the town.
Yeah, it's
but like come on, it's ridiculous. It's a meme. And why? Because the algorithm will promote anything related to Palestine in this week.
Correct.
I mean, like what do they know? You could not be more removed from the situation.
And that's a sad thing, like that, you know, I haven't like seen it fully, but that will get traction and you'll have such meaningful reporting being done by, say, an independent house where you have very brave journalists going inside and it's horrific what's happening in Palestine. You go there and you see that reporting, that's something else. Form an opinion based on that, right? And even then, read from a large swath of sources, right? Try and understand, because I think this is something else we were talking about, is that like misinformation in many aspects because of technology. I truly think it has like a first mover advantage, right? You don't need to be right, you need to be first, in your opinion. It could be wrong even, but you'll get enough traction for that, even if it's a 48-hour news cycle. Get the traction, get the views, get the clicks, and move on, right?
I'll say this, that we can talk in the realm of short content creators, but I'm talking about people who aren't in the business of content creation.
Not even content creation.
They're like, these are people we know, they just have an Instagram. They are not doing it with any sort of monetary goal in mind. Okay, they are just people we know who are like caught up in, I don't know, like going to a rally about the CAA and there are these like Bollywood celebs who came there and someone asked them, what do you know, why are you here, like what are you protesting, and some famous dude is like, I don't know, पर सब लोग आए हैं तो कुछ तो हो रहा होगा ना.
Yeah, dude, I mean like that takes...
So he's not like doing it because he needs views, like you know what I'm saying, he's one of the most famous, like he wants to get papped and stuff, but it's not like some financial thing. It is related to that views thing, but it's not like trying to work the algorithm. It's a social, like,
it's
social.
It's something deeper. It's like a desire to be in the zeitgeist, political zeitgeist, but like not really do the work.
You want to have this extreme...
And I think a lot of that is also because people just want... You're like desperate need for an opinion, right? And you're like scared. It's a scary thing to go out and form one on your own. Right? Because like, what if it's wrong? What if like people don't like me because of my opinion? This, that. I mean, it's something that everyone grapples with. It's normal.
What if I don't like have like a smart thought about this? You know, like what if I'm like, what if I don't care?
Correct. What if that is the biggest thing. What if you genuinely don't care about the issue? But everybody cares about the issue. What do? Okay, let me just quickly find someone that agrees with me on ABC. Okay, maybe they'll probably maybe I will agree with them on point D. Right? So let me just take point D of theirs.
It's not a bad heuristic.
It's not bad.
It's not a bad heuristic.
It's not bad, but I just think like...
Because I think like with this right-left thing, there's also like, you know, some people are more individualistic, some people are more compassionate. You know,
Correct.
You can have that view, and it's likely that compassionate people will move towards a welfare-based economy, and more individualistic people will move towards a more capitalistic economy and expect that to work.
But even there, for me, it's like in India, it should never be the case that you're not compassionate. I think like that is something that runs so much, to me at least, to our core. And I think that's what a lot of the governance you see now and before, at least it seems to be, that's what they're saying. It's like, look, this is development where it needs to be done, but never forgetting the beneficiaries of this development, which ideally will continuously and continue to be supported by a robust, corruption-free welfare state. I think they are working towards that. At least I've been lucky to travel so much because of my work to the field and go and see and go and interact with the last mile consumers of some of these schemes. I think that actually, Rohan, is a lot of where the problem comes, is that a lot of the elite commentators in the country are not willing to go and talk to actually the people in the field. Go and see what they're saying. See, okay, are they actually being benefited by a road scheme or a home building scheme or a solar scheme or a pipe scheme or a water scheme? There's so many. I studied for the civil service exam, as you know.
What type, just about this. Yeah. What type of economic bracket are we talking?
I'm talking like go meet like right at the village, not even in your tier 4, tier 5.
Like you work in like small.
So a lot of the people I work with
business.
Would be like small business. I would not even say they're bottom of the pyramid, but I've had the opportunity to go and interact with those people as
Probably represent the huge proportion.
Or like
of the
even
masses,
like an aspirational segment. Go and meet the aspirational segment. See why, and I like that word also. What always humbles me in this country when you go and you meet people is that there is a genuine aspiration to be better, to move out of whatever situation that you're in through all the hard work that you need to put in, and if you can have a government that can support you in that goal, right, where you have it, because in economic injustice is a reality, inequality is a reality, right, but can you work through that, can you help people in the right way to bring them out of that and take them to a 21st century economy well and truly. And I think like to do that, the people, the political and economic commentariat need to spend a lot more time, I genuinely think, going to the
field. Is there a language barrier?
There is. I think you have to be able to speak.
I assume no one speaks English in the villages.
I mean, that's a cool thing, right? So the kids, if you talk to a lot of the family's children, they will.
They're on smartphones.
They're on smartphones. I mean, they're consuming content, right? But again, that's why I'm always scared with some of the content, right? Because if the content, if we're not telling people that, hey, it's okay to change your opinion. I think, look, actually, this is the source in many respects of the like over polarization and where we are now. Somewhere, I don't know where this change happened, if it was just Trump, just before Trump, or I don't even like to give Trump so much credit. I think this existed even before him. But there's this idea that if a human being changes their opinion, that is somehow a demerit to their character.
Yeah, like they've taken the L.
Yeah, either you've taken an L. Right? Like you've changed your opinion. I've changed my opinion. I've changed my opinion so many times. I changed my opinion last week.
Yeah. Like I'm still conflicted on so many issues.
I read something and I'm like, okay, that's a good point. You read something else. Okay, that's a good point. I'm not sure where I am on this. Let it simmer. Let it take time. Let me go and talk to a third person. And I think, but that's where the effort metric comes in. If you want to be politically invested in the dialogue, well and truly, then like, try and fight that algo. Try and fight the algorithm. Like, dude, on my Twitter, I'll follow everyone, whether it's right, left, I don't care. I want to see what people are saying. If they should,
mess with it.
Almost. Yeah, mess with it almost, right? Like, try and really understand. Okay.
And you'll train your algorithm like that. Like, make it work for you.
Yeah, and I think once you start
because the algorithm is also like, one thing you can argue is like, if it's an algorithm, like a true algorithm reflecting your echo chamber, then it's not actually the algorithm's fault unless it's trying to create echo chambers.
Correct. Yeah.
You get it. If it's an algorithm that's just going to give you more of what you like, if you start watching multiple things, it'll give you multiple things.
Correct.
If there was some nefarious agenda, these algorithms would not let you train it in a way to give you balanced opinions.
Exactly. So I think if we assume that it is like benign, it's like a benign actor, right, with no malicious intent, the algorithm, then you do your work, start following someone who you disagree with, follow a bunch of people anyways that you agree with. But I think when you do that, you start realizing like common trends in the articles, right? You'll realize that the same article will be like 180. Okay, so then is the truth like somewhere in the middle? Is someone like 100% right? Someone was 100% wrong? But I think if you don't do that, you won't be able to know. And like the performative people, Rohan, frankly, to answer your question on like the people joining like arbitrary protests, I don't think the performative people ever cared, right? Like take our own metro in Mumbai, right? You had people who were protesting this, and which is a fair thing. I mean, the right to protest is so critically important. But have you like gone and studied the compensatory afforestation plans? Okay, if you're going to have to cut down some trees in RA, you have to meet certain ecological measures. Okay, they were not met. Okay, then that's why we're protesting. Okay, they are met. Okay, then, okay, why is a person, like a lot of people we know, people that have never ever taken the train ever, who will never take this train even now. You only take the car. You go to RA for your Sunday morning jogs.
Not even.
Not even. Yeah, you don't even go past Worli.
Yeah, they don't go past. They don't. No one.
So I'm like, it's just half baked, man. You just show a complete disinterest in actually getting.
Meanwhile, people in RA are like, bro, build the metro. We want to
like people
travel better in AC.
See, the truth of the matter is that these are kids that would go to Switzerland and Japan and be in awe, like, oh, what an incredible train system. Like, you think they didn't cut trees to make trains there? Yeah. Right? But development comes at a cost, and you have to weigh the cost and the benefit and do that, and people are doing that, right? And I think it's not something that is not being done. A lot of smart people are thinking about how we can do this without compromising our climate ambitions, our commitments on climate change, which are very, very important for us.
Yeah, and in fact, this is where maybe it's a bit of a digression.
Oh, but one quick point before you digress, though, coming back to the left and right. I just said, take climate, right? That's what I look at. We've made such ambitious commitments on at the last COP meeting, right? Conference of the Parties. We've made very, very ambitious commitments on going green, on renewables. Like, we're not in climate denialism. Right?
At all. And
in
fact...
So, let's say that's a social right in the US.
That's a very socially
right, right? When the US will have people that say climate change doesn't exist.
Yes.
We don't even say that here. At all. So that's not right either. So where is this label coming from?
So, last thing we're going to get to, and then we got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But we need to talk about this survey, give some context to it, and you sent me a voice note because I just called and asked, do you know about this?
What's going on? Yeah.
You sent me a voice note about it, and you told me that one of your friends or colleagues had kind of freaked out about it with a completely wrong idea of what it was.
Correct.
And so tell me about...
Yeah, I think this ties into what we're talking in. We're in an environment of alarmism, and people are looking for an outrage outlet, right? So there's been a long historical conversation in India, and specifically this state in Maharashtra, about the Maratha community trying to be included in the OBC, other backward caste and class list, right? And that's been a whole conversation that's being fought in court, all of those things. There was a protest, there was a walk where a gentleman walked from Pune to Mumbai, for that cause, ending in Azad Maidan. So there's this whole historical context in play. And I would even say, hand on my heart, even I don't know enough about the intricacies of this
to form an opinion on should they have it or not.
Yeah, I generally don't. I want to. I think it's something that's important given that I'm in this state. But I've been following the news enough, I read it every day to know that this political conversation is going on, right? As a part of which the BMC, right, our municipal corporation here, the Mumbai Mahanagar Palika, was they were empowered to carry out a survey, right, in the city to get an understanding of the Maratha and the open category communities. Open categories, those who are not in the reserved classes and castes. So this is the context. So the BMC
so just find out how many Marathas are living.
Correct. And there are other things they have to check on the survey, but this is a survey that was mandated by the State Backward Commission itself to go and carry out this task.
Got it.
So now put yourself in my shoes. I know this is going on. So if someone tomorrow came and knocked on my door saying, sir, what is your name? What is your family? What is your religion? What is your caste? Right? They would maybe ask these questions to form some idea. Otherwise, how will you know I'm Maratha? Right? My assumption is that these are the questions that they're asking. So now, in many cases, people on social media were going around and saying, someone has just visited my house from the government, from the BMC, and has asked me my religion. Why are people dividing the city on religious lines? Then they're asking me my caste. This should not happen. Should I be worried? Are they starting is this linked to the National Registry of Citizens where they're going to, it's like boom, boom, boom. You're just building these, you're going down this downward spiral of fear.
Spiraling, yeah.
And that is linked to very vocal outrage on social media. And here's my problem. You can just quickly look it up to try and understand what's going on. But people are not willing to do that, right?
Maybe ask the person
just
doing the survey.
आप क्यों कर रहे हो ये survey? क्यों कर रहे हो भाई? ये क्यों पूछ रहे हो मुझे? Why are you asking these questions? You will get your answer. But what's happened is people have freaked out, have shared this on their social media, right? They might be someone who's not even fully immersed in the political zeitgeist, right? They're like, okay, someone's come to my house, then that gets reshared, retweeted, requoted, reshared, retweeted. And suddenly you have people like scared for their life, thinking that there's some kind of genocide in the offing, and that's like preposterous. It is a state backward commission mandated survey being carried out to settle an issue, a pre-existing historical issue to which you have no relevance.
And given where people's minds obviously jumped, given the NRC, like we know who was freaking out, what they thought it was about.
Yeah.
The irony is their responses to that survey are only helping a cause they would likely agree with.
Like a community that has been underrepresented should get represented, right? Theoretically, you would support that. So it's like
when you get good data will you be able to make forward a case.
Yeah. So you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're being dishonest to your own beliefs.
Or the other way, even if you don't believe in the thing, like you don't know which way you giving an answer is even going to affect it.
Correct. I think the survey is one thing, but we have an even more recent example. I'll quickly just touch on this.
Please, we have time as long as you have.
So there was the Mahalaxmi Racecourse, right? There's a whole conversation around this
about the amusement park.
Amusement park.
That is insane. Though.
See, but here's the thing. Okay. I think the news leaked, and here I don't know who to give benefit of the doubt. Let's say we give the benefit of the doubt here. The first circular, and I think Milind Deora came and recently clarified it on a post. But his intent, I think this is maybe one of those like lost in translation pieces where they've used the word theme park, right?
Or amusement.
Amusement park or theme park. I forget what it was.
To mean what?
And people got super scared. This is like India's lung that is going away. This, that. And I think this is where like even people who I really, I'm close to, I respect them tremendously. They're like, Puru, here's the change.org petition. You got to sign it right now so we can save the racecourse. Right? And
I genuinely think I may have just signed it.
I know. Like, you signed it, right?
Because like I slacklined.
You slacklined there, right?
I assume they're gonna build Disneyland.
Yeah, and see this freaked me out. But what I told that person, which is what I want everyone to maybe think in life. Someone said that I was like, hey, I just want to see what the actual plan is. Can I see the schematics before going and signing the petition? Not in a way that I disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. If they have to build a theme park or a Disneyland in Mahalaxmi Racecourse, that is acrimonious, and that is like we're already like suffocating here. You have urban heat island effect. You have like it's getting hotter and hotter, and you're like cutting out a green lung. It's unacceptable. I agree with you, but let me read the schematics first to understand what they're trying to do, and then I think they've come out and they've clarified. No, our goal is actually to build like a central park. So make it even more green than what it is now. Because right now it's like you have the people that are wealthy enough to have access to the racecourse club, right? So they have access to the club. And select hours, people can go and jog around that track and use the facilities as they want. But there's not been any real development in that area.
Some bathroom, some benches.
Yeah,
like how does in Central Park?
Like, is it a high quality park when you go there to slackline? It isn't, right?
No.
Not at all, right? So, okay, can you go and actually develop that in a way where it's green, it's luscious, you enjoy running, walking, jogging, playing, and build it truly for everyone? And seems that in Milind Deora's clarification and what they've and what the state government here has clarified, that was always the intention. Like it just, that's the problem, right?
Somehow it just got printed, people started...
Misinformation has a first mover advantage.
Do you think it could just be like a leak? Like someone deliberately could it be like that?
Possible, man. I think there's like mendacious intent is there, right? Like to intentionally misinform someone. It can exist, it does exist. I don't know if this was a case of that. I don't know if even they got caught out and they actually wanted to build Disneyland and then they saw the protest and then they said, okay, we're building a central park. Right? So we don't know the inner workings, but I truly believe that people just jump to the conclusion.
So finally it's Central Park style.
Yeah, they're planning on building a large green space. That's been the last notification, right? And so it is really much ado about nothing, right? People maybe have lost sleep over it. You've signed a petition. I've signed a petition for it. So
to keep it shitty.
Yeah, right? Like to keep it in a kind of muddy running track that's open only at certain hours and it's not had any development. Right? So I think at some level, elite Indians need to have a long, hard think about how in touch or out of touch they are with this country. I think that is a long and ongoing process for you, for me. I'm trying my best to be a better Indian in the true sense of the word, right? To kind of not unlearn, but realize that some of the ideas that I held before, the opinions I had, the viewpoints I held were really very much influenced by a certain set of ideologies which maybe don't entirely apply here. Understand the historical reality and understand the hopes and ambitions of the people.
And maybe don't apply here, I think, is the key word.
And don't.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not, otherwise, if it was so simple, just reverse all your opinions.
Yeah.
And have those equally strong. You know, but that doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't apply either. Like, really I think being a good citizen, like, do more due diligence on your opinions. And like, a friend to me said something very beautiful once. You know, we're talking on this whole BJP Congress thing only. And what she says, like, look, in the end of the day, I'll vote for who's good in my constituency. Right? And that is what it should be, right? It doesn't matter. Like, do you, first of all, know who your MLA is, and two, vote if you believe that candidate is going to help you, your people, and the people in and around your community and municipality.
Is local government picking up in India? Like in the...
It is. Look, I think local government's always been big. We are getting plugged in now.
We are getting plugged in. But actually, if you look at the grassroots level, people are more concerned with who the MLA is than who the PM is.
Correct.
And we are not.
Correct. And oftentimes, a lot of the sources historically, you know, in the 60, 70 years post-independence, unfortunately, a lot of the corruption and the rot was in those systems. Right down to your panchayat level or your panchayat, urban local bodies. That's where a lot of this kind of has taken root. So if you really want to, and this is what I think, if we have to really move forward, we'll have to, and I do believe that there's honest effort being put into this right now, is can we start that reform from the bottom and do it with, you know, good intent and, you know, try and build a better forward-thinking country without abandoning some of our principles that are anyways very progressive. You know, I think that's what I would say, at least.